I am Bruno, the middle child, sandwiched between my older brother Ethan, our family's golden boy, and Kevin, my younger brother who I tried to protect. We grew up in suburban Michigan, where our parents created the illusion of a perfect family while harboring toxic favoritism beneath. What started as typical sibling dynamics escalated into a betrayal so severe it cost my brother his life. Now, 20 years later, a message from a stranger is forcing me to confront the past I tried to bury. Before I share how my family was destroyed and the truth that found me decades later, let me know where you are watching from and hit subscribe if family betrayal stories resonate with your own experiences. Growing up in our middle-class neighborhood in Grand Rapids, Michigan, our house looked like any other on the block. A two-story colonial with a well-maintained lawn and a basketball hoop in the driveway. But appearances can be deceptive. Inside those walls, my parents, Richard and Diana, created a household that revolved almost exclusively around my older brother Ethan. From the moment Ethan brought home his first perfect spelling test, my parents decided he was destined for greatness. His academic achievements earned prime placement on the refrigerator. His baseball trophies dominated the living room shelves. Family conversations inevitably steered toward Ethan's latest accomplishment. Meanwhile, my solid B grades and participation in the school band were acknowledged with distracted nods, if mentioned at all. "Your brother is special," my mother would say, whenever I complained about the imbalance. Some people just have that extra spark. The inequality was even more pronounced with Kevin, 5 years my junior. Sensitive and artistic Kevin struggled to find his place in a family that valued Ethan's type of conventional success. While Ethan was outgoing and confident, Kevin was introverted and thoughtful. Where Ethan excelled at sports, Kevin found solace in books and drawing. These differences made him an enigma to our parents, who never figured out how to connect with a child so unlike their treasured firstborn. I was 13 when I first noticed Kevin crying alone in his room after a family dinner, where our parents had spent the entire meal praising Ethan for making varsity baseball as a freshman. Kevin was 9, too young to articulate the unfairness, but old enough to feel the sting of invisibility. "Why do Mom and Dad love Ethan more?" he asked me, his voice small and confused. That moment crystallized my role in our dysfunctional family. If our parents were going to worship at the altar of Ethan, then I would become Kevin's defender and confidant. Throughout middle school and high school, I made sure Kevin knew that someone saw his worth. I attended his art shows when our parents were too busy at Ethan's games. I celebrated his achievements like when his sketch won a district competition, only to have our parents minimize it because it coincided with Ethan's state championship. The dynamic grew worse when Ethan's subtle bullying of Kevin intensified. Never obvious enough for our parents to notice, Ethan would make cutting remarks about Kevin's interests, call him weird for preferring drawing to sports, and occasionally destroy his art projects, always making it look like an accident. "You need to toughen up, our father told Kevin when he tried to complain. "Your brother is just playing around. Do not be so sensitive." By the time Kevin reached high school, the years of emotional neglect and Ethan's persistent undermining had taken a toll. At 16, Kevin was diagnosed with depression and anxiety. Our parents treated this development as an inconvenience, a weakness Kevin needed to overcome, rather than a serious health condition requiring support. "Just try to be more positive," our mother suggested, as if clinical depression was a choice. I was already working as a junior programmer at a local tech company, living in a small apartment nearby. With our parents providing little emotional support, I stepped in as best I could, driving Kevin to therapy appointments and making sure he stayed on his medication. College proved to be Kevin's salvation. Away from our parents' indifference and Ethan's shadow, he began to flourish at Michigan State University. In his sophomore year, he met Melissa in a literature class. She was the first person outside our family who truly saw Kevin for the thoughtful, creative person he was. Their relationship blossomed quickly, and for the first time in years, I saw genuine happiness in my brother's eyes. "She makes me feel like I matter, Bruno," he told me during one of our weekly coffee meetups. "Like I am not just taking up space in the world." For almost 2 years, Kevin was stable. His therapist reduced his medication. He maintained good grades, developed a small but supportive friend group, and even started selling his illustrations to local businesses. Melissa was his rock, encouraging his art and helping him build the self-confidence our family had systematically dismantled. Then came the Thanksgiving that changed everything. Kevin brought Melissa home to meet our family. She was lovely with auburn hair and a quiet confidence that complemented Kevin's gentle nature. Our parents were polite but reserved, asking more questions about her career prospects than showing any real interest in her as a person. Ethan, however, was unusually attentive. I noticed it during dinner, the way Ethan's eyes lingered on Melissa when she spoke, how he positioned himself to sit next to her when we moved to the living room for dessert, the unnecessary touching when passing dishes. My stomach knotted with an unease I could not immediately name. Kevin, happy to see his girlfriend apparently accepted by his intimidating older brother, seemed oblivious to the undercurrents. But I saw how Melissa shifted uncomfortably under Ethan's attention, sometimes moving closer to Kevin as if seeking protection. 2 weeks later, I stopped by Ethan's apartment to borrow his lawnmower. He was in the shower when I arrived, having given me permission to let myself in. His phone left on the coffee table, lit up with a text message. I would never normally look at someone's private messages, but the preview caught my eye. It was from Melissa. "Ethan, we need to stop. What we are doing to Kevin is wrong." My blood went cold. Almost without thinking, I picked up the phone. There were dozens of messages between them, dating back almost 3 months. Flirtatious at first, then increasingly intimate. Plans to meet when Kevin was in class. Discussions about their connection being undeniable. When Ethan emerged from the bathroom, I was sitting on his couch, still holding his phone, shaking with rage. "What the hell is this?" I asked, turning the screen toward him. Ethan's expression shifted from shock to something that chilled me even more, a smug certainty that he would face no real consequences. "It just happened," he said with a shrug. "These things happen, Bruno. These things happen. You are sleeping with your brother's girlfriend behind his back, and that is your explanation." "Melissa and I have a real connection," he replied, his tone eerily reminiscent of our parents' justifications for their favoritism. "She chose the better brother. That is just life." I stood up, fighting the urge to physically attack him. "You need to tell Kevin." Ethan laughed. "Why would I do that? It would just hurt him unnecessarily." "Unnecessarily? You betrayed him." "Both of you did." "Look," Ethan said, his voice taking on the condescending tone he had perfected over years of being told he was special. "I have always gotten what I wanted. I have the better job, the better future. I deserve happiness more than Kevin does. He will find someone else more suitable for him." In that moment, I saw with perfect clarity the monster our parents had created. A person so entitled, so convinced of his own superiority that he felt justified in taking anything he wanted regardless of who he hurt. "You tell Kevin by the end of the week," I said, my voice deadly calm, "or I will. And I will tell him exactly what kind of person you really are." Kevin's world collapsed when he learned about the betrayal. I had hoped Ethan would do the right thing, but 5 days passed with no confession. When I called Kevin to check in, he was excited about surprising Melissa for their anniversary. I could not let him walk into more humiliation. I met him at a park near campus, the same place where he used to sketch when we were younger. His face fell as I recounted what I had discovered, showing him screenshots I had taken of the incriminating messages. At first he refused to believe it. "There must be some mistake," he insisted, his voice breaking. "Melissa would never do that to me. And Ethan, he is my brother." But as the evidence mounted, denial gave way to a devastation so profound, it was physical. Kevin doubled over on the park bench, clutching his stomach as if he had been punched. He began to hyperventilate, his panic attack so severe that a passing jogger stopped to ask if we needed an ambulance. "Why is it always like this?" Kevin whispered, once he could speak again. Why does Ethan get everything, even the one person who was supposed to be mine? I had no answer that could ease his pain. I just sat beside him, my hand on his shoulder as silent tears streamed down his face. The next day, our parents called a family meeting. Kevin had confronted Melissa, who confessed everything, and then immediately called our mother, somehow turning herself into the victim of the situation. When we gathered in our parents' living room, I expected them to finally hold Ethan accountable. Instead, they delivered perhaps their cruelest blow yet. Kevin, our father began. We understand you are upset, but we need to consider what is best for everyone involved. Best for everyone, I interjected. Ethan and Melissa betrayed Kevin. How is that best for anyone except them? These situations are complicated, our mother said, her voice sickeningly reasonable. Melissa and Ethan have developed real feelings for each other. Fighting against that would just make everyone miserable in the long run. Kevin sat motionless, staring at the floor as our parents continued. Son, our father addressed Kevin sometimes. In life we need to step aside gracefully when things do not go our way. Ethan and Melissa seemed to have a genuine connection. A connection built on lies and betrayal. I countered, my voice rising. Bruno, that is enough, our mother snapped. The reality is that Ethan has more to offer Melissa. He has a stable career at his law firm, financial security, a plan for the future. We just want what is best for everyone. What about what is best for Kevin? I demanded. Does he not matter at all to you? The look my parents exchanged confirmed what I had always suspected but never wanted to acknowledge in the hierarchy of their love. Kevin barely registered. Kevin will bounce back, our father said dismissively. He is young. He will find someone else. I turned to Ethan, who had remained smugly silent throughout the exchange. Are you hearing yourself? All of you. You are telling Kevin to accept being betrayed and humiliated because Ethan deserves happiness more. Not more, our mother corrected, though her tone suggested otherwise. Just differently. Ethan and Melissa should not have gone about things the way they did, but now that feelings are involved, we all need to be mature. Kevin finally spoke, his voice hollow. So I should just accept this, pretend it is okay that my brother stole my girlfriend, that neither of them cared enough about me to even break up with me first. Now Kevin, our father said in the patronizing tone he always used when Kevin expressed emotions, let us not be dramatic. These things happen in life. I watched something break in Kevin's eyes. Without another word, he stood up and walked out. I followed him to his car, begging him to come stay with me, rather than return to his apartment alone. He refused. I need to be alone right now, he said, his voice frighteningly empty. The next 3 weeks were a nightmare. Kevin stopped attending classes. He would not answer my calls for days, then call me at 3 in the morning, alternating between rage and despair. He stopped taking his medication, convinced it was numbing him when he deserved to feel this pain. I tried everything. I contacted his therapist, who could not discuss his case, but urged me to continue reaching out. I drove to his apartment daily, sometimes finding him unwashed and unfed, staring at walls. Other times he would not answer the door, though I could hear movement inside. Once I heard him shouting Melissa's name, though she was not there. Then came the night that haunts me still. Kevin sent me a text that simply read, I am sorry for being such a burden. You are the only one who ever cared. Something in the finality of those words sent me racing to his apartment. I pounded on the door, then used the spare key he had given me months earlier. The bathroom light was on, but the rest of the apartment was dark. I called his name, receiving no answer. When I pushed open the bathroom door, I found Kevin unconscious on the floor, an empty bottle of his antidepressants beside him, along with a half-empty bottle of vodka. The next hours were a blur of ambulances, emergency rooms, and the hollow sound of my own voice answering doctors' questions. They pumped his stomach. They admitted him to the psychiatric ward. They told me he would live. When I called our parents from the hospital, their first reaction was concern about who might find out. We should keep this quiet, my mother said. These kinds of problems can follow a person. Not concern for Kevin's life. concern for appearances. "Your son tried to kill himself," I said, my voice breaking with exhaustion and fury. "And you are worried about what the neighbors might think." "Do not be dramatic, Bruno," my father responded. "Kevin has always been emotional. This is probably just a cry for attention." I hung up, unable to continue the conversation without screaming. Kevin spent 4 weeks in the psychiatric hospital. Our parents visited exactly twice, both times, spending more time complaining about the inconvenience and embarrassment than actually speaking to their son. Ethan never visited at all, sending a generic "get-well-soon" text as his only acknowledgement. The final betrayal came just days before Christmas, when Kevin was scheduled for release. I had arranged for him to stay with me while he recovered, planning a quiet holiday where he could feel safe. Then my mother called. "We are having Christmas dinner at 6 on the 25th, she announced. "Your father is grilling steaks." "I will be spending Christmas with Kevin," I replied. "He is not ready for family gatherings yet." "Oh, Kevin is welcome too, of course," she said, her tone falsely bright. "And Ethan will be bringing Melissa. It will be good for all of us to move past this unpleasantness." The phone nearly slipped from my hand. "You invited Ethan and Melissa to Christmas, while Kevin is recovering from a suicide attempt that they caused. Now, Bruno, that is not fair. Kevin's issues go beyond this situation with Melissa, and Ethan is still our son. We are not going to exclude him from family gatherings." "But you are fine with excluding Kevin, who you just said is welcome, knowing full well he cannot possibly attend with them there." "Well, that is Kevin's choice, is it not? If he chooses to hold grudges rather than move forward, that is on him," I exploded. Years of watching their favoritism, of trying to shield Kevin from the worst of it, of making excuses for their behavior, all combusted in a single moment of clarity. "This is not about grudges," I shouted into the phone. "This is about basic human decency. Your youngest son nearly died because of what Ethan and Melissa did, and you are inviting them to Christmas dinner like nothing happened. We are trying to keep the peace." "Bruno," my father's voice came on the line. "Something you seem incapable of doing. Keep the peace." I laughed bitterly. "You have never cared about peace. You have only ever cared about Ethan. The rest of us could disappear tomorrow, and as long as your precious golden child was happy, you would consider it a fair trade." The silence that followed told me they could not even deny it. "Kevin and I will not be attending," I said finally, "and I think it is best if I do not come around at all anymore. Not while you continue to enable Ethan's behavior at everyone else's expense." When I picked Kevin up from the hospital, I told him nothing about the conversation. He was fragile, quiet, his eyes constantly darting around as if expecting attack from unseen enemies. The doctors had adjusted his medication, but they warned it would take time for him to stabilize. I brought him to my apartment, having prepared the spare room with fresh linens and some of his favorite books. For a few weeks, we established a careful routine. I worked from home to keep an eye on him. We cooked simple meals together. We watched movies, carefully avoiding anything with themes of betrayal or family drama. Slowly, Kevin began to talk again, to occasionally smile at small jokes. Then came the call from our mother, who somehow got through to Kevin when I was in the shower. I returned to find him curled into himself on the couch, shaking. "She said I need to forgive them," he whispered, "that I am tearing the family apart with my selfishness." It took hours to calm him down. The next day, I helped him pack his belongings and drove him to Columbus, Ohio, where a college friend had offered him a place to stay and a job at a local art supply store. It was far enough away from our family and close enough that I could visit regularly. "I need a clean break," Bruno, Kevin told me, as we unloaded his meager possessions into his friend's spare room. "From all of it. Even from you for a while. You remind me too much of everything." It was the hardest thing I had ever done, hugging my brother goodbye, knowing he was right. My face, similar to Ethan's in the way siblings often resemble each other, was a constant reminder of his pain. "I understand," I said, trying to keep my voice steady, "but I am always here." anytime, day or night. I know, he replied, attempting a smile that did not reach his eyes. You were always the only one who saw me. 3 months later, Kevin's friend called. Kevin had not shown up for work for 2 days. When they checked his room, they found him dead from an intentional overdose. The note he left said, "Only I am too tired to keep trying." The funeral was a grotesque display of my parents' hypocrisy. They wept dramatically for the cameras and the neighbors, playing the role of devastated parents while whispering about keeping the details quiet. Ethan and Melissa stood hand in hand near the back, their feigned grief as transparent as glass. After the service, I approached them one last time. "I hope you are both happy now," I said, my voice devoid of emotion. "You got exactly what you wanted. No messy loose ends to deal with." "That is not fair," Melissa had the audacity to say. "We never wanted this. You just wanted everything else that was his," I replied. His happiness was an acceptable casualty. I turned to my parents next. "I am done with all of you. Do not contact me. Do not look for me. As far as I am concerned, I buried my entire family today. I moved to Seattle the following week, changing my phone number and email address. I told no one where I was going. I built a new life from scratch, working my way up in a software development company, buying a small house overlooking Lake Washington. I dated occasionally, but never seriously. I kept everyone at a safe distance. For 20 years, I lived with the ghost of my brother and the weight of my failure to save him. And then last month, a message appeared in my Facebook inbox that shattered my carefully constructed isolation. The profile picture showed a young woman with dark hair and serious eyes. The name Sophia Brennan meant nothing to me. I almost deleted it as spam until I read the first line. "I believe you are my Uncle Bruno, my biological father's brother." My finger hovered over the delete button. Internet scammers were getting more creative, but something made me continue reading. "My name is Sophia. I am 19 years old. My mother is Melissa Brennan, and the man who raised me is Ethan Brennan. But I recently discovered that my biological father was Kevin Brennan, your younger brother." The room seemed to tilt. I sat down heavily on my couch, reading on with growing disbelief. Last month, I was searching for some old photos in our attic and found a box of my mother's diaries. I read entries from 20 years ago where she wrote about being pregnant with Kevin's child, but staying with Ethan after Kevin's death. There were photos of Kevin letters he wrote her, and even a paternity test from when I was born that Ethan insisted on. I confronted my mother, and after days of denial, she finally admitted everything. Attached to the message was a recent photo of Sophia. The resemblance was unmistakable. She had Kevin's eyes, the same slight tilt at the corners. His smile captured in a candid shot where she wasn't looking directly at the camera. Even the way she held her head slightly to one side. A mannerism I had not seen in 2 decades. There was also a scan of what appeared to be DNA test results, confirming that Ethan was not her biological father. "My whole life I have felt like an outsider in my own home," the message continued. "Ethan has always treated me differently from my younger sister. Nothing I did was ever good enough. I never understood why until now. Mom says you cut contact with the family after everything that happened. I do not blame you, but I would like to know about my real father. No one will talk about him. It is like he has been erased." I stared at the message for hours, unable to formulate a response. If what she was saying was true, it meant Melissa had been pregnant with Kevin's child when he died. It meant my brother had a daughter he never knew about. It meant a piece of Kevin still existed in the world. After 3 days of deliberation, I replied with a suggestion for a video call. I needed to see her in motion, hear her voice, gauge whether this was an elaborate hoax. The moment Sophia appeared on my screen, my doubts evaporated. She had Kevin's nervous habit of tucking her hair behind her ear when she spoke. The same slight stammer when she was emotional. Details no scammer could know to imitate. My whole life has been a lie, she said, her voice breaking. I always felt like Ethan resented me, but I never understood why. He would praise my sister for the smallest achievements while finding fault with everything I did. The pattern was sickeningly familiar, history repeating itself with a cruel precision. When I showed Mom the diaries and photos, she broke down. Sophia continued. She admitted that she had planned to leave Ethan and go back to Kevin just before he died. She was about 6 weeks pregnant but hadn't told anyone yet. After Kevin's suicide, she stayed with Ethan, but when I was born, he demanded a paternity test. When it confirmed I wasn't his biological child, he agreed to raise me anyway, but he has never let either of us forget it. I asked her careful questions, confirming details only someone with access to my family's history would know. She described my parents' house exactly as it had been. She knew about Kevin's art, even had some of his sketches that Melissa had kept hidden from Ethan. I want to know who my father really was, she said finally. Not the version my mother tells where he was too unstable to handle a breakup. Not the version my grandparents tell where he was always troubled and fragile. I want to know the truth. For the first time in 20 years, I spoke my brother's name aloud. I told her about the sensitive boy who could spend hours perfecting a single drawing, about his quiet humor, his kindness to strangers, how he would rescue spiders from the bathtub, carefully carrying them outside instead of killing them, the way he lit up when talking about art. I also told her the truth about what happened. The betrayal, our parents' response, the devastating aftermath. I did not spare Melissa in my account, though I tried to be fair. She was young, I acknowledged, and had been manipulated by Ethan's charm and our parents' influence. Your father was not perfect, I told Sophia. He struggled with depression since he was a teenager, but he was a good person who deserved far better than what happened to him. He would have loved you fiercely if he had known about you. Sophia wiped tears from her eyes. I always felt like I was missing something, like there was a piece of me that did not fit with the rest of my family. 2 weeks later, we met in person at a cafe halfway between Seattle and Portland, where she attended college. I brought a box of Kevin's belongings. I had kept his sketchbooks, some photographs, the books he loved with his notes in the margins. Ethan tried to stop me from coming today, she told me as we sat across from each other, both still awkward with the newness of our connection. He said you were always jealous of him and would try to turn me against the family. I shook my head, unsurprised. Ethan has spent his entire life being enabled by our parents. He has never had to face consequences for his actions. They are still the same, Sophia confirmed. My grandparents, I mean. They still treat Ethan like he can do no wrong. They barely acknowledge me on holidays, but my sister gets lavish gifts and constant attention. As we talked, I learned more about her life. Her decision to study psychology, inspired partly by her own experiences feeling like an outsider. Her struggle to understand why her father, the man she thought was her father, seemed incapable of showing her affection. The relief she felt upon learning the truth, followed by new grief for the father she never knew. I am leaving home permanently, she told me. I cannot be around them knowing what they did. Mom keeps begging me to forgive her, saying she was young and confused. Maybe someday I will, but not now. Before we parted, I gave her a small wooden box Kevin had made in high school woodshop class. Inside was a set of charcoal pencils I had bought for him the Christmas before he died, never used. He would want you to have these, I said, my voice rough with emotion. Maybe you inherited his artistic talent along with his eyes. Sophia smiled, the expression so like Kevin's that my heart contracted painfully. I am actually terrible at drawing, but I will keep them anyway. As we said goodbye, she hugged me tightly. Thank you for not turning me away, she whispered. You are the only connection I have to him. In that moment, I felt a weight I had carried for 20 years begin to lift. I could not save my brother. That failure would always be with me. But I could be there for his daughter. I could make sure she knew the truth about who he was. I could give her the support our family had denied both Kevin and me. We are family, I told her the words. feeling strange but right on my tongue. Real family. The kind that tells the truth and shows up when it matters. 2 months have passed since that first meeting. Sophia and I speak weekly. I am helping with her college expenses, something Ethan threatened to stop doing when she refused to drop this Kevin nonsense. Last week I attended her psychology department's honors ceremony, sitting proudly in the audience as she received an award for her research on family dynamics and mental health resilience. Family is not just blood, it is truth, respect, and showing up when someone needs you. My journey from middle child to estranged son to unexpected uncle has taught me that the family we choose can heal wounds that the family we are born into inflicts. Kevin never got to know his daughter, but through her a part of him lives on, finally receiving the love and acknowledgement he deserved all along. Melissa reached out to me last week asking to meet. She expressed genuine remorse for her role in what happened. While I cannot forgive her on Kevin's behalf, I appreciate that she is supporting Sophia's relationship with me. Sometimes redemption comes in small, imperfect steps. As for my parents and Ethan, they continue their toxic dynamic. When Sophia left, they simply transferred all their focus to her younger sister, creating another golden child to worship. Some cycles are too deeply ingrained to break unless everyone involved wants change. But Sophia and I are creating something new, a family bond built on honesty and mutual respect. In helping her discover her father, I found a way to honor my brother and begin healing myself. Have you ever discovered a family truth that changed everything you thought you knew? Share your experience in the comments below. If this story of finding connection after loss meant something to you, please hit like and subscribe to support more stories of healing and truth. Share with someone who might be struggling with family pain, and remember that sometimes the most powerful family bonds are the ones we choose to create. Thank you for listening to our story, and I wish you the courage to seek truth in your own relationships, no matter how difficult it might be.